I define Liga MX as the shoot your shot league.
You do expect higher performances and better things from Club Americas, but it's the inconsistencies.
Isn't this inconsistent though?
I will maintain that the U.S. men's national team came out to the knockout round despite terrible coaching.
Like they have a student discount maybe to go to Pumas games? Like they got it, right?
No.
To take that next step, I think it's still undisputed that you have to go to Europe.
He's going to be on the ground for the majority of the time. No,
I
look back at highlights.
That's the Christian Pulisic treatment, though.
Same.
We're going to have to stop this. We're going to start arguing on this podcast, aren't we?
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Futbol Show. I'm Geno, Gonnello, joined once again this week by Edwin Garcia, our producer, but our stand-in co-host while Lizzie is on vacation right now. She's enjoying herself, I'm sure. She deserves it because she does a lot of work and she deserves it. She kills it over there. So we are filling in for her and missing her, of course. She'll be back next week, but Edwin was great last week, and so we brought him back this week. And before we get started, Edwin, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Just keeping the seat warm for Lizzie. She's obviously big shoes to fill here with, big time news breaking journalist, and then you have me come in. But I try my best. But Lizzie, enjoy. Stay dry out there. It's raining like crazy, but enjoy. Have a good time off. And my favorite part of the little intro video is when she gets mad in the little clip. Every time it always makes me giggle. Every time. I love that part. So it's kind of like she's here, but yeah, great show, man. I'm excited to be here and thanks for having me and glad to be back. Let's get started, man. Let's roll.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over. We have a lot of things to figure out, or a lot of things to figure out, a lot of things to talk about. A lot of MLS that happened this past weekend, good and bad, unfortunately. And of course, Liga MX, CONCACAF Champions League, a whole bunch of it. Before we get started, we probably should mention, I didn't put this in the rundown, but we probably should mention the Red Bulls incident that happened on Saturday. Racist remarks were made by Dante Van Zier of the Red Bulls it seemed like it was either towards Abobasi or Mensah in the middle of a scuffle with referees. I believe it took place around the 53rd minute. They didn't get the game started again till the 73rd minute. So there's 21 minutes of extra time in that one. But Van Zier and Struber, the Red Bulls coach and the team, have since issued apologies on the for their actions and I guess in Struber's case, his inaction in the event. But I just want to mention that as we talk about this sport, of course, we want to make sure, there's no place for that in MLS. There's no place for that in sport at all. There's no place for that in the world. So want to make sure, that we mention it and mention that. And even though it was an unfortunate situation, it's something that, we hope never happens again in MLS.
I agree, man. Completely agree. Yeah, well, there's no place for that. In sports, in life, anywhere, we're all adults. We're better than this, man. It's an unfortunate event. Hopefully, those who participated, understand what they did and learn from it. And hopefully, we don't see any more of this. But we'll see. Time will tell. But hopefully, no more. Yes. And we'll keep going.
Yeah, and as of now, there has been no suspensions or fines or reprimanding done by the MLS in the case of Dante Van Zier. So we will see what happens. Again, I'm sure what's happening in that locker room for, on the pitch and anything like that, it's a difficult situation to navigate now. But, again, we just hope it doesn't happen again and, send our thoughts out to those who were affected in that incident, whether it be Abobasi or Mensah or any of the other players there. Again, the actual racist remark has not been, shared with us. And obviously that's none of our business. It shouldn't make a difference whether it's no matter what the comment was. But yeah, so our thoughts go out to those guys. And again, no place for that in soccer and no place for that in the world. So just wanted to mention that real quick before we started. But now that we're done with the unfortunate events, we get into, I guess, the more, fun stuff for some people. For you, Edwin, maybe
now
not
I can
so
say a
much.
bunch of mean things about somebody else, but in a nice way.
Now we can talk in a bad way about somebody else. No, but
Yeah.
Inter Miami, they suffer their 5th straight loss. This one at home to FC Dallas, 1-0. This was, by all accounts, just not a good match at all by Inter Miami. It was rough. They failed to score a goal for their 4th time in 5 games. Neville calls out Josef Martinez after the game, says changes may come to lineup, and has also hinted at changes to the team, possible additions, because it's not enough right now. This was the first game with the 2-striker system of Campana and Josef up top. Your thoughts overall, before we get into it in more depth, your thoughts overall on this performance by Inter Miami?
Oh, man. It's this. I try to be optimistic. I try to find silver lining. I try to look at this objectively. It stinks, man. It just stinks from every angle. There's nothing good here at all for Inter Miami, from their performance on the pitch to management to everything that's going on, and it encompasses the whole team. It's an unfortunate thing. This is as close to rock bottom as you could possibly get for a young franchise. We haven't had that much history, but it's, at least there was like glimpses of hope in the past. And I feel like right now, all hope is gone. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, because like we'll get into it, but I'm sure there's like all over social media and all over here locally, there's so many Neville out chants, and the word online is get rid of him, Bex, get rid of your boy, bring in somebody new. But who are they going to bring in? Like, even if they brought in, there's no snap and it's all fixed thing. That's just one Band-Aid on a lot of cuts, and that's what this team has right now. We just got to start healing, man. It's got to start healing before it gets even worse. So, that's why I'm wearing the Miami FC jersey today. I needed to feel like a winner. I didn't want to feel.
It was definitely a rough one. It seemed like Dallas found a lot of freedom down the right side against Negri. It seemed like Negri just had an awful game from start to finish. Was just not good at all. He was getting beat on everything. Every single good attack that Dallas had came down that side. I guess the question begs to be asked: how much longer does Neville have, in your opinion? How much longer should he have, in your opinion? Not will he have, based on the leash that Beckham gives him or whatnot. In your opinion, how much longer of a leash should Neville have before it's time to say, let's move on?
In my opinion, that leash was gone a long time ago. But if we're just to answer your question, Tat, the leash, it's got to be one more game. Really, this is it. You have a bye week this week. They don't play. They have 2 weeks to figure it out, get everybody on board, and put together your best game plan ever. Like, this has to be your magnum opus. Is that what they say? Like, this has to be your top performance. This is the one that everyone will measure you on if you win, and everyone will definitely measure you if you lose. I think there's all the pressures on Phil. If they come in, lay another dud, even if they draw, unfortunately, I think he's in so tight with Bex that even if he gets like a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 draw, I think the leash will be extended one more week. But me personally, no, it's now or never. You got to come out with a statement win, 2 weeks off to prepare and give the best performance that you possibly can. That's it. Because you said it, this past game performance was horrible. The first half of this past week against Dallas came out strong, pressuring. Miami had the possession but had no shots. Couldn't do anything with the ball. Dallas was the one pushing and pressing and pressing. And if it wasn't for Drake Callender, who's quietly the MVP of this game, Jesus Ferreira goal, that was just a tap in. That's just, he was standing there, the ball was there, and he's just putting in. There was nothing, no play development, no banger, no nothing like that. It was just, right place at the right time. But Drake Callender single-handedly kept that game from being like 4-0 in the first half. Just that's how bad the defense was. That's how bad Inter Miami was playing. Second half was a little better, but they don't have, and we spoke about it last week. They don't have that person, that playmaker, that creativity up top to finish. Nobody's taking shots. You're trying to walk the ball in every time. It's lack of organization. There's no creativity, no cutting in from the wings. There's nothing. And nobody's stepping up. Guys are trying, but they look like a fish out of water. There's like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of cuts and just a bunch of little band-aids everywhere, and it's not going to help. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be soon if he keeps on losing. I mean, you can't lose 5 games in a row and not expect to be on the hot seat and expect to be on your way out. I mean, that's unacceptable for any team. And never mind a team like Inter Miami, who was expected to compete near the top of the MLS. Yep. It comes in and gets 2 big wins. Looking back now, 2 wins that may not have been as big as we thought they were because Montreal and Philly are not playing so well.
We beat the team that's the worst in the league, and we celebrated.
Exactly. And they haven't scored. Like I said, they haven't scored in 4 of their last 5 games. Then these are against Toronto, New York City FC is in there. Cincinnati's been very good, so not scoring against them is not unreasonable. But Dallas as well. So these are games that they should be scoring and find the back of the net, and they just haven't played well enough to find the back of the net. And you got to expect that at some point it's going to be Neville's time, and at some point Beckham's just going to have to say, you know what, the time is up. We're losing too many games. This team should not be losing this many games. And like you said, they have a bye week coming up. And they play Houston on the other end of that bye week, a Houston team who isn't the best, but is significantly improved from last season. And they currently find themselves in 7th place in the West. They've won, I believe, 3 of their last 4 matches. So this isn't a team that's going to roll over. They'll be, they're going to be a tough test. So it's going to be interesting to see how much longer of a leash he has, but at this moment, I think in both of our opinions, it can't be that much longer.
Yeah, brain, just like, come on, stop it. Like, end the misery already. There's nothing we're going to, even if we go on a run, like 2 games in a row and he wins and the guys start playing better. It's the moment it happens again. We've lost all equity with the fans. They've lost all equity with everyone involved in the team. Like, as soon as come on, they're not going to pull together 5 straight wins the way St. Louis did. You know what I mean? But that's what it's going to take for him to like get back all those lost fans and buy himself enough equity to continue on. But even if they win this week, people are still going to, there's no faith and hope. And it's really a shame because this, like, looking at it in the big picture as a local Miami guy here and as a local fan, unfair expectations. That's what every team in Miami suffers with. Unfair expectations, whether you're the Marlins, Dolphins, the Miami Heat, Inter Miami, any team. There's unfair expectations, and especially with this team because of the way it came about and everything. And there's been a long drama. This team didn't start playing until 2020, but the franchise was granted in 2012. Okay, so that was 8 years where everybody sat around waiting for this team to come around. So there's been a lot of vested interest. There's been a lot here. And to go through another coaching change, to do this, to have nothing to show for it after, into our 4th season now, you're going to lose this delicate fabric of fan base that we have here because it's a winning, I'm not going to say a title town because we've won titles, but we don't regularly win them in every sport. But this is a championship city. The people want to see championships. There's a lot to do. You're competing with a lot. You have a stadium that's way, way north, an hour away from Miami, yet they call themselves Inter Miami. There's so many things that are going against you that you can't afford to mess up what's the most pure thing that you have under your control, which is your team and how you perform every given match day. And man, if that's going bad, you got no hope. It's really, really, really tough. If these fans start going and they stop going and they start going somewhere else, oh man, because there's a solid core fan base, the supporters group La Familia, which is made up of 3 different big supporters groups and some smaller ones sprinkled in. they're going to be there regardless. And if you watch the games, you hear them singing and dancing and cheering the team on all game, and you see it in the rain no matter what. But eventually everybody hits their limit, and I hope that their leash is a lot longer than mine. Mine, like I said, is right there, but I hope that their fandom leash is a lot longer, because it's a tough ask, man. And in a sport and in MLS where there's so much parity, I know we mentioned Montreal being a bad team, but I really do think that when you look at all the teams in Major League Soccer, there's probably just a handful. You can count them on one hand, amount of teams that are really have separated themselves as elite teams, well-run organizations, top to bottom, that you can count on, that are going to always play well. Everybody else, I feel, is separated by very minimal things. And as bad as Inter Miami is right now, their separation between them and that top of that group that they're in is not much. So it really bothers and it really hurts when you see that this team just can't put it together, because, like I said, there's not a big difference. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of good football when you watch MLS on Saturdays. So I need to see a little better. Just give me something to cheer for, not just a couple of plays. I need something a little more. And right now, the Miami fan needs it, because it's dark times, man. Dark times right now.
Well, I'm probably, this is probably not going to help. But
here we go.
When you look at two teams, we've talked about Montreal, we've talked about Inter Miami.
Yeah.
If the game one goes differently, these are two teams that are basically on the same path. If game one goes differently, or if they tie, they are the two worst teams in the East. So as much as we talked about them being these little pieces away from being the top, they're also these little pieces away from being the worst team in the league, which is
100%.
Obviously not a great look. And with that said, I bring in the question, and maybe this is a little bit of an unfair question for Miami. And before we get into this, I think the hype is, I don't think it's unfair, the hype this season. Maybe in previous seasons it was, but I think going into this season,
it's never unfair. It's never unfair, because anybody who plays here and anybody who's a fan of this team or understands the dynamic of it understands that it comes with the territory. You cannot be in Miami or Fort Lauderdale like they are and not understand that there's an unfair expectation. It is what it is.
Yeah. And it's just, they should be much better than they are. There's no way they should be as far down as they are. They should be competing for top 4 in the East. And I think that's without a question, considering the talent that they have on the team. And you look at what the top 4 in the East are, and it's Cincinnati, who everybody expected, but it's a New England team who I don't think many people expected to be up there. It's an Atlanta team that many people were like, they're going to need a lot of pieces to fall into place for it to work. It's a Columbus team with a brand new coach and a couple new players and a bunch of youngsters that's helping the team. Like, there's no reason Inter Miami shouldn't be in that top 4. But things have been not great. And I guess, again, this may be a little unfair, but the question begs asking, after 5 straight losses and your only other win being over Montreal, and only other wins being over Montreal and Philadelphia, when you look at the two teams between Montreal and Inter Miami, Losado obviously coming off of 2 games in which they lost by a combined score of 9-0. Granted, we have to give them their due. The 5-0 was also due to a red card in that first game. So maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. It still would have been lost. But between Montreal and Inter Miami, between Phil Neville and Losado, in your opinion, whose hot seat is hotter?
Oh, it's a great question. Who's got the hotter hot seat? Why is this happening to me? Why am I here talking about Inter Miami's coach being on the hot seat? This is not what I expected this year. I think it's again, with the unfair expectations, it's got to be Neville. Look, this guy in Montreal, although when you really think about it, it's still Neville. It's still Neville, because even though Montreal was a better team last season than Miami and their fall has been bigger technically down the table, it's still it's a new coach, first year. You got to give him time to figure it out, to make some changes, to apply philosophies, do some things. He still has the benefit of the doubt of what benefit of the doubt of time, and it's a new structure. Neville's been everything that you see here has been happening for a couple of years already at minimum. So there's it. What are we arguing about? It's Neville. It's easy. He's the one who's been here doing it the longest, and the results haven't been happening. So it's definitely him. It's unfortunate what Montreal's going through, but again, Montreal's not being rumored with Messi. Okay. When the fact that Inter Miami, anytime any European player is disgruntled and they say, "Oh, he's thinking about going to the United States," it's always Inter Miami. We're always in the talks with every single great player out there, and I need a coach who can make it more enticing for those players to want to come here. And right now, Phil Neville, no, hottest seat. He's the hot one.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to be on the other side here. I'm going to say Losado might be on the hot seat. I think that Losado. It's easy to say, "Oh, you're a new coach," right? But at the same time, even with new players, you got to figure something out. And 7 games in, the only reason they have a win is because of a red card that Philadelphia Union got that completely flipped the game on its head with 20 minutes to play. This is a team that hasn't scored a single goal in any other match. So as much as you could say, "Oh man, you're a new coach, give him time," this, that, and the other thing, 9 goals in 2 games, having a -13 goal differential that they have right now, I think is rough. And granted, yes, they lost a lot of players. Samuel Piette is injured right now, but this team was a team that finished in 2nd place last season in the East. This is a mighty fall from where they were, despite losing their coach and a couple of their best players. I don't think we've seen New York City FC had the same situation where they lost a bunch of really good players, did lose their coach, lost their coach mid-season last year, I think it was. But they're doing much better than we're seeing from Montreal. So I think in Losado's case, they're not even competitive right now, and that's a serious issue.
Yeah, those are all solid points. Again, and I mentioned it at the beginning, the fall on the table is a greater fall. What's happened in Montreal, and it shows you how valuable Kai Kamara is, man. Like that guy, no matter how he's been playing for what feels since MLS started in '96, and he's on his 27th different team right now. But he is just, I didn't think you would take that guy out of that team and they would be this bad.
Yeah, it's him and Ishmael Kone in the middle. Yeah. They lost Georgi Mihalovic as well. So a few key pieces to that team. Yeah. But
still to give them a little slack then if they've lost those guys. Inter Miami didn't lose anybody. We lost Pozuelo, but we replaced them with an MVP. We replaced one MVP with another MVP. I forgot about Ishmael Kone. I forgot that guy was good.
Yeah, I mean he went for a solid fee to Europe.
And Jordy too.
I mean, again, they've lost a lot of key players. I just, again, I think if there's anything good about what Neville's been doing for the most part is, at least they've been semi-competitive in every match but the last one, and especially against Cincinnati. And maybe that's the hook you hang on to. But I mean, both of them have been awful. Both of them have not been good. And I think it comes down to whether you value expectations or competitiveness more in that aspect, because Inter Miami has been competitive, but their expectations but they haven't won, and their expectations were much, much higher. Montreal's expectations were a little bit lower, haven't been even remotely close to competitive, even based on their expectations. So
I think this just shows you how important Drake Callender is, because he's been single-handedly keeping it from being these Montreal type scores.
It's a good point. And we mentioned Kai Kamara on a Chicago team now that many of us expected to be in the same spot Montreal is right now. They're currently in 6th place with a +1 goal differential on 9 points, and only they're 4 points back of 5th. So it's 4th. But they've been much better, and Kai Kamara has been a major reason in that aspect. So very interesting, to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But I think both those coaches definitely got to figure something out if they want to keep their jobs, because again, like I said with Losado, even it's yes, you're a new coach, yes, you should have time, but there's only so long of a leash you can have when you're losing 3-0, 4-0, 5-0.
Yeah,
and just those are mantled.
Those are some bad, ugly L's, but I do think he'll at least get to midway through the season. I really don't think Neville will make it past this next game in 2 weeks if they have another bad performance. You see this in other sports too. This is like football is no different, where that lame duck coach is, he has the bye week and they're like, all right, he's got one last chance to prove himself. This is the same thing. He's got the bye week now. We'll see what he comes up with. But if we look, the proof is in the pudding, man. And if we look at the recipe and everything that we've had, there's never been that moment from him where he comes out with the perfect game plan and does this. It's just, I'm not optimistic. I think we'll be doing a show in a few weeks with, talking about who the next coach for Inter Miami is going to be.
Yeah.
So
Jesse Marsh.
Hey, no. I love Jesse Marsh. I love him. I think he's great, but stay in Europe, man. You're the only American coach we got out there, man, representing. Stay out there. Don't come here.
Pellegrini Matarazzo is over in Germany. Give him some credit too.
Exactly. We have plenty of American coaches here. Leave our guys here. You've elevated, to the European leagues. Go out there. Go. I heard he was rumored with Leicester City. Maybe that'll happen. I'll take one of those.
Leicester City. Turn him down.
Oh, you turned him down?
Turn him down.
See? So good. Now you've turned down jobs. That means more people are going to find you. This is good. Good for him. Give me one of those like former players. Give me like a Gerrard or Lampard after he's done with Chelsea. Maybe they come over here, do the Rooney treatment. I'll take one of those guys. Something like that.
Speaking of Rooney, his DC United team will be taking on Montreal this week. I think that's a big one. If Montreal gets blown out by DC United, who has not been good this season either, not great. Not great. But let's move on. Let's move on to, I guess one of these teams is performing well. Another one of these teams has been another one of the big disappointments of the season.
Oh, here we go.
LAFC versus Austin FC. LAFC stomped all over Austin in this one, 3-0 at home. Bouanga, let's start there with LAFC. I mean, we could talk about their efforts and their talent week in, week out for days. But I think right now the big question was, at the beginning of the season, me and Lizzie talked about it, and it was where the goals coming from? How are they going to survive without Chicho Arango? And it's by a man named by the name of Dennis Bouanga, and he is on a mission. Ooh. And he has made everybody forget about Chicho Arango. I honestly couldn't even tell you what. I could look it up right now, but off the top of my head, I do not know what Chicho Arango is doing at Pachuca. But I can tell you right now, he's
in Monterrey. He's in Monterrey, no?
No, he's at Pachuca.
Oh, man, I had it backwards. Okay.
Pachuca.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, he probably doesn't have 6 goals in 6 MLS matches or 6 league matches. And he probably doesn't have 11 goals in all competitions. So Bouanga has been on a mission, and LAFC has been benefiting from it for sure.
Well, I looked it up. In French, Bouanga means Chicho who. Which is exactly what Bouanga's doing, man. He's just stepped in, and I feel LAFC. This is what I was talking about earlier. LAFC is that type of team that is separated itself. They are on another level. Everything they do, 9 out of 10 times is going to work. They'll fail on some stuff. The Bale thing. When you look back at Gareth Bale's tenure, was it good? I mean, it got him a championship, but did he provide something? Maybe not. Well, let me take that back. He did get that goal in the extra time.
He did get the goal.
Yeah. I guess you give him that.
Important goal.
That's a very important goal. So I'll give him that. But again, overall, some people might say, oh, well, they didn't need to get him. They probably used somebody else. But yeah, look, every 9 out of 10 times, LAFC's whatever they do is going to be the right thing. 9 out of 10 times, anything Inter Miami does is probably going to be wrong. So that's the difference. The LAFC is one of these elite teams. Bouanga is playing on a tear. He's the most informed player in MLS. Like, it's just week after week, even on his down weeks, he's still, putting it up, and his Champions League numbers are there. We're going to see. I don't know I don't think he's going to play tonight. I haven't seen the lineups. They haven't, those will come out later, but I can't anticipate, with a 3-goal lead going into at home. Plus he just another hat trick. He's just not from, we're lucky. We're lucky right now. We're lucky as fans to be able to tune in on Saturdays, put on an LAFC game, and know that we're going to get a spectacular show and a guy who's going to ball out. And let's see. We'll keep it going, keep enjoying it. Hopefully he stays here long enough. How old is Bouanga? He's got to be in his early mid-20s, right?
I looked it up earlier and I can't remember it off the top of my head. He is 28 years old.
Oh, man, perfect. Ripe age, man, right there, dude. 28 years old.
He'll get a move if he keeps going like this, I think. I think he'll get a move. I mean, he is 28 years old, so it is towards the end of that prime that a lot of soccer players are in now. A lot of sports you look at and the prime age is much later than the 22, 23 that it is in soccer. But, the striking partnership of him and isn't Pierre-Emerick Obama or isn't Aubameyang the Gabon international as well?
Gabonese, yeah. I believe
so.
Yeah.
They got to be winning a lot more games with those two up top. I mean, what are we doing over here?
Yeah.
So,
and there's also the rumor of Pierre. Pierre going over to LAFC. There was that big rumor going around earlier this season. Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe we'll have the little Gabonese strike partnership there in LA. That'll be something to see, man.
And you know what? They have it's just they've replaced players, and they're just like you said, they're a very well run organization for such a young organization. This kid Biuk on the right side, I think he's only 20 years old. Sorry, Croatian international, only 20 years old. He has been very dangerous for them. He hasn't showed up on the score sheet a lot. He only has 1 goal, no assists, but he has been very dangerous and getting into really good spots, which has allowed Bouanga to get into these spots and get those goals. But Biuk has been really good. Opoku's been good. Timothy Tillman has been solid for them in the matches that he's been in.
The other Tillman, he's great, man. He's been on our team of the week a couple times already early on in the season, man. He's been playing really well, very quiet, low key. And you know who's fit in just perfectly over there? Who's loved by everybody? Chiellini. He's gone in there. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's always happy. He's never angry. Like, I don't see that mad Italian guy. I see like a happy Italian guy out there playing defense every single game. That guy seems to be having the time of his life ever since he came to LA.
And I love it. If you look at FotMob, he has the best rating out of any LAFC player right now. He's got 7.84 rating over the 6 matches that they've played so far this season.
Consistency, man.
For a guy of his age, that's not too bad. And I think there were some questions about his consistency towards the end of last year, but he's done a phenomenal job this year. And this team is they're firing on all cylinders. And that's, what we should expect from them. They're really not showing any signs of letting up. They've lost 1 match the entire season. And it was their second match in the CONCACAF Champions League when they had a bunch of players and they were already up 3-0, and they were just like, whatever, we're gonna we're not gonna really try in this one. Another situation like that, which we'll talk about when we get to the CONCACAF Champions League. But Austin FC, on the other hand, the team that I think many of us were looking at and expected to be just as good, expected Driussi to compete for that Golden Boot again and the MVP again. And so far, Sebastian Driussi only has 1 goal and 1 assist. They don't have that many goals. That their most goals have come from their right back, and it's just been poor performance after poor performance. And if it wasn't for the West being as bad as the West is at the bottom with RSL and Colorado and and LA Galaxy and Sporting KC all being bad, then Austin FC would not be in a playoff spot or in even remotely close to a playoff spot right now.
Yeah,
and it looks really bad over there.
It does. It's not the best Austin FC, but it's still Austin FC. I still have faith in the brand, in the organization. I have them like in between that elite and that where everybody else is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they have everything in place to be that elite type of team. They're just not performing as well. You mentioned Driussi, Fagundes, another one who hasn't really been lighting it up. Nobody has there. But if you look at MLS as a whole in general, you look at some of the names from last season, like the Hani Mukhtars, the Brandon Vasquez, these guys that were
slow starts.
They've all gotten off to slow starts. The Hani Mukhtar, MVP, Golden Boot guy, he's playing, and Nashville's still in our top 10 in our rankings and everything, but you haven't seen that Hani Mukhtar that you saw week in and week out, especially towards that second half of the season last year. Brandon Vasquez has that 1 goal this season.
Yeah.
But you've seen other guys step up, your Thiago Almadas and your Jordan Morrises and obviously Bouanga. But I think with Austin, they have the potential to just be able to turn it on with just a couple of little tweaks here. They're still finding out what's going to get them going. I still think that they didn't lose talent the way other teams lost talent in the offseason. I feel like if anything, they should have evolved and gotten stronger. And maybe it's just a little bit of, hey, we surprised a lot of people, and now people aren't taking us, for granted as much, and we're trying to adjust. I think there's a little learning curve for them this season, but I'm not going to write them off like, a bust just yet. I still think they still got, they still got equity with me. I like where they're going, but they need to make some changes here and get back in gear.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Austin FC, if you look at their schedule and how they've performed this season, they've beaten Montreal 1-0. And I believe that game was at home. They beat Montreal at home 1-0. They beat RSL on the road 2-1.
Yeah.
Other than that, they've lost to St. Louis 3-2 at home in St. Louis' very first match in MLS.
Yeah.
They lost to Violet in the CONCACAF Champions League, did not advance in the CONCACAF Champions League. They lost 2-0 to Houston. They lost 2-0 to Houston in Houston. They tied Colorado 1-1, and then they lost to LAFC 3-0. So over the course of their season, they've given up a handful of goals. They've only scored 6 goals in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference for you between this Austin team and the Inter Miami team we were talking about earlier?
See, I knew you were going this route, and I don't appreciate it because I just finished complimenting Austin FC, and then you did what the young people on the streets call pulled up receipts, and I don't appreciate that. Look, man, Austin and Inter Miami, we're talking a lot more fans in Austin. They sell out every game in a bigger stadium. That's a difference. They more points, more goals, some signs of offense. I mean, they've only been, shut out here twice as opposed to us 4 in the last 5 games. They're trending in the wrong direction, but I still don't think I'm not going to put them in the same class as Inter Miami or as bad as we have been. So I still think, again, I'm going to stand by the fact that, they've got some questionable things, but that St. Louis game, I can make an excuse that it was the first game of the season. It's you don't know what to expect. That was a surprise. St. Louis was playing with house money. Things can happen, but you flip that result around in 3-2 Austin, you got a whole nother, a whole nother breakdown in standings and everything. So just like that Real Salt Lake game, if they had won that one 1-0, you turn around one of these results. Basically, you turn around one of these results, Austin's a lot better than they are right now. You turn around one of the Inter Miami results, they could be the worst team in football. You know what I mean? So that's the difference right there.
Yeah, but I think you could also make the same case for Austin. If you turn the 2-1 RSL game into a 2-1 loss instead of a 2-1 win, then Austin's sitting on 4 points and at the bottom of the West. So I think for me, the thing is, when you look at them and compare them, I mean, I know Philly isn't playing that well, but Inter Miami they both have wins over Montreal, and Inter Miami's one other win is against Philly, and Austin's one other win is against Real Salt Lake, which I would argue Inter Miami actually has the better win. But at the same time, I think Phil Neville, like Austin and Josh Wolf have probably bought themselves a lot of time by doing what they did last season.
Yes.
Whereas Inter Miami has not even come close to that and has had the potential and has had the expectations, like you've mentioned, for a while. So I think that's why you can make the case that Austin is still, you're not worried about them as much. It's not as big of a deal. And where in Miami, it's a much bigger deal. But this Austin team needs to figure it out soon. And they need to figure it out soon because a lot of people, as I mentioned before, were talking about how lucky Austin were last season. And right now they haven't proven anybody wrong. So they're going to have to do it again because a lot of people going into last season expected them to finish in 12th, 11th. They finished in second place or whatever. They finished in second place in the West. A lot of people were shocked, but the question was, could they repeat it this season? And this season, they haven't shown that quality that they showed last season. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see. But they're going to need to take a step in the right direction because they have not looked as good as they probably should look right now.
It goes to show you what, a proper season how much weight that can carry into the next season. And as far as expectations go, good for Austin. But if you Austin fans are out there and hey, misery loves company, if you want to come hang out with me, I mean, we can be abysmal together. I'm not gonna fight too hard for Austin to be better than Inter Miami. I mean, so, but I do see that there is a little bit of a difference there, and I'll give the edge to them slightly.
Would you feel differently about, because again, Inter Miami is only 1 point behind Austin. It's not like they're that far. But would you feel differently if Phil Neville had led Inter Miami to? Is what you're saying basically is you'd feel differently if Inter Miami was in the Eastern Conference Finals last season?
Oh, 150%. If we were coming off of a second place showing, that absolutely. Even if we were coming off Montreal season last season, where we didn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but just finished second in the table, I would have taken that. Yeah, I'd definitely be campaigning for Neville to stick around, because right now the only reason I campaign this hard for him to stick around is just because I give a lot of credit to what he did last season, with one thing in particular, which was how he was able to turn Gonzalo Higuain into the sixth man of the year, which was probably one of the most incredible Houdini tricks I've ever seen in pro sports, because that guy was just not anything good at that time. Oh, as angry as I am about Phil Neville right now, I was even angrier last season with Gonzalo Higuain. Like, that's how bad it was. Okay, but yeah, Phil Neville changed that around, got us something, and but now there's no Gonzalo Higuain. There's just Phil Neville, and he's not doing. We got Joseph Martinez out there, just he's doing is play better, telling him to play better. That's it. 7 games in, 6 games in. Right. He's got no goals, nothing. Play better. That's all. Not
even remotely. I don't think he's even had that many good chances. I'd have to check what his XG are, what is this season, but I can't imagine it's very high with the way he's been performing. So a lot to be desired with Josef Martinez. But let's move on a little bit and talk a little bit about we won't go in depth with Seattle. We are kind of running a little long on the MLS segment here, but we'll talk the fact that Seattle did win against St. Louis 3-0 this past weekend. The other top team in the Western Conference, a team that was shocking everybody, but also performing really well and did play a good solid first half against Seattle. Seattle figured it out in the second half and ran away with this one 3-0. My question to you is, when you look at the top 2 teams in the Western Conference, who is your favorite, LAFC or Seattle?
I'm still LAFC. I've been on the LAFC bandwagon since last season. Just what I saw them do collectively over the course of the whole season, the way they've been able to. Because look, Bale scored that big goal, but Bale was also absent for a lot of the time, and the way that they held that team together, the way they faced that adversity of like, hey, we had this huge signing, and he's not even on the pitch, but yet they still continue to run through those teams like that and play as well as they did. I admire it, man. I wish that that my team would be like that, but again, I do enjoy watching a well-run team, and they're the class of MLS right now. Seattle is up there as far as they've 2 championships. They have that history. They're always going to be competitive, but right now, man, LAFC is just too hot right now, man. Too hot, too loaded. And again, Seattle, Jordan Morris, I feel like he's going to come down to earth, man. He's got more. He's on pace to score like I don't know how many goals. His career high is like 14 or something. He's got like 8 already. Like he's going to come down. Yeah. So I'm still not on the Jordan Morris train, but they're playing well. They're beating the teams they have to beat. That was a big win this week against St. Louis. The interesting thing was how you said it was 0-0 at halftime, and then the adjustment. That's where the good teams separate themselves from everybody else. When you come in, you're able to make an adjustment, you're able to change some stuff and get the win based on those changes. That's what they did. Good for them.
Yeah,
it's not a big difference.
I'm going to say LAFC as well, and purely because this LAFC team, the players that are there have done it before. This is a different Seattle team than we've seen in the past. And this Seattle team, it doesn't have a lot of the same players. It has some of the key figures, but not a lot of the same players. And it's been a while since, last year they didn't have a good season. They did win the CONCACAF Champions League, but they had an awful MLS season. So I'm going to err on the side of LAFC purely because of the experience that their team as a whole has in these types of positions. But like you said, I think Seattle, they're right there, and they have a lot of talent. And I don't think it's surprising that a Brian Schmetzer-led team is competing near the top of the Western Conference. But I'm going to need to see them continue this for a little bit more before I think I put them on the same pedestal as LAFC.
Seattle's good, man. They're so good that they got Rui Diaz on the bench right now, just because they can't put him in the spot because the way everybody's playing so well. So props to them. Props to them. I love it. I got a Seattle jersey, not a Jordan Morris.
Yeah, no, Seattle's the Xbox 360 jerseys. Those are great.
That's the one. I love it.
Moving over, we'll talk about a game. We don't typically talk about what's coming up, but we'll talk about a game that's coming up because of its stature as we continue our LAFC segment here. Yes. LAFC is taking on LA Galaxy and El Trafico this weekend. Excuse me, geez. In El Trafico this weekend. It comes at a good time for the Galaxy, at least in the fact that Chicharito is back. Chicharito is back, and they have never, ever lost to LAFC at home. So two good things going for the Galaxy. Other than that, not much going well. They lost again. They're going to be missing players because I think two of their players, I think Costa and someone else, I forget, or Caceres, I think it was, got red cards in the Houston match. So they're going to be missing both those players, but they do get Chicharito back. This is a game that will take place after LAFC plays their match in Vancouver, or excuse me, at home against Vancouver in the CCL on Wednesday, tomorrow. Dave recording is Tuesday. But will the CCL schedule affect LAFC, or is this, is there let's start with Galaxy, because this is a game that they need a spark from. This is a game that they can get a spark from, a rivalry match where they could get a spark from this match and carry that on through the next few games to get back on track. Do they need a win in this one to get back on track, or do you think a draw or even a good loss would be enough to say, okay, maybe we're starting to see a little something here against a rival in El Trafico?
Oh, you need a win, and a convincing win. Not even a close one. You need a convincing win that reestablishes balance in the city of Los Angeles. That's what you need, because right now LAFC is just so far ahead, so much better in everything that they're doing than the Galaxy, and the Galaxy have no momentum. Let's be real here. Let's be real, Galaxy fans. Look at me here, okay? You see me, Galaxy guys? I'm talking to you. If you really think having an old Chicharito coming back, and that's going to be the difference between you and a guy like Dennis Bouanga or any of these other guys that LAFC have, man, it's going to be a long, long El Trafico and a long, long trip back to where, to Los Angeles, because I know they play out in Carson City, and that's like an hour away. They got the same Inter Miami situation over there. But at least the Galaxy have, 5 championships, I think, in their trophy cabinet. So
pretty good history.
Yeah, they got a good history here, but this is LAFC's time. It's all about them right now. The Galaxy, they would have to pull out a shocking, like a 3-0 win or something like that. Like, it'd have to be something really good. Can they do it?
See, my thought process is if you could somehow sneak out a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw in this one, that's a good, you're like, okay, you know what? We held them to a draw. That's a good result. Let's build off this. But like you said, I mean, 2 key players, starters on or key players on red cards now that will not be available for El Trafico. I mean, that defense is in shambles. They're going to get run ragged, in my opinion. And really, the only question is, will the loaded schedule over the past 2 weeks have any effect on LAFC? But I would agree. I think LAFC, my guess is LAFC probably rests players in this match against Vancouver tomorrow. And it's just tonight.
Tonight.
I keep forgetting it's not. I keep thinking it's a Wednesday game. You think it's Wednesday? Phillies tomorrow. LAFC's tonight. But my guess is they rest players tonight, and then they're going to just absolutely destroy LA Galaxy at home, or excuse me, on the road at LA Galaxy Stadium. And I can't see a way where Galaxy finds anything.
Look, an LAFC B team with a 3-0 lead at home against Vancouver is as sure thing as you can possibly get. I don't think it's gonna be a challenge for them tonight, to maintain that and just move on and advance. However, they get their points, they'll move on. And the fact that the long trip is going from downtown Los Angeles out to Carson City to take on the Galaxy for Trafico, that's the travel, the loaded schedule is not going to be. It's early. It's not going to be anything that's going to delay them or hurt them. It's early in the season. Guys are still well rested. It's if this was late season, maybe, but no. And you said something there. You said the Galaxy, maybe they could put together something to win and build off of. The Galaxy isn't we got to win to build off of team. They're the same. They're bad. Like if you're in LA, put it this way. This is like if you're a Yankee fan and the Mets are getting all the attention right now. The Mets are just, it's all about the Mets. That's what it is. That's what's happening right now in Los Angeles. The Galaxy have been the what do you call it? The show pony of the league for its entire existence. They've been the best team, the class of MLS, and now here comes LAFC, and they're just slapping them around. The only thing the Galaxy have left is that they've never lost to LAFC at home. That's it. But that's gonna end. That's gonna end this week. It's gonna end pretty bad because LAFC wants it to, and they're gonna go in there. They're gonna take what they want, and it's gonna be hard times for the Galaxy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I would imagine a lot of pressure coming from LAFC and a lot of sitting back from the Galaxy, just hoping and praying they don't give up a goal and they can find something on the counter. Like that's the only thing that's what I guess this game is going to be like. But
Chicharito crying there going, God, man. But if I don't like Jordan Morris, I dislike Chicharito even more. There's just nothing I like about that guy. I'm sorry.
The two players you hate the most are Chicharito and Jordan. Can confirm. But I think that wraps up about everything we need to talk about with the MLS. Like we said, I think the South Trafico matches is not going to be anything of significant, anything really that you're going to. I think it's going to be blowout without mincing words. I think it's just going to be a blowout. Let's move on, though, to CONCACAF Champions League. We'll talk a little bit about this before we get into Liga MX and wrap things up. But we'll start with Philly. We'll break it up before we go into LAFC once more. But we'll start with Philly and Atlas. Philly's up 1-0 over Atlas right now with the trip to Atlas coming up this week. An Atlas team that has won just 2 games since their first win in the first game of the season. The question is this Philly's game to lose? Is there any way Atlas can expose Philly and shock them this week?
The way Philly's been playing, there's a way Atlas could expose them. Philly is another one of those teams that, much like Austin, a lot of, expectations going into the season, a lot of runner-ups last season in the MLS Cup. Mm-hmm. To come in this season, get off to a slow start, lose to Inter Miami. I like how I can sneak in Inter Miami in every segment we talk about. Lose to Inter Miami 2-0. But Philly, again, I love their coach. I'm all about the dupe, which I think is such a weird catchphrase that they have up there. But I'm all about the dupe. I'm all about Philly. I think I also had I have a close friend who used to work for the organization. And he just spoke great things about how well run and how everything is just first class over there. So they're a first class team. They're that other team that's there. I got them above. I'll put them into that elite category. They might not be playing like it right now, but they're one of those elite teams in MLS. I think Curtin is a great coach. Those players, Gazda, Carranza, they're gonna figure it out. I think they're realizing that they took a couple games lightly at the beginning of this tournament, and now they have a chance to really just put a nail in the coffin here for Atlas and move on to the next round and bring home that title. They have a very good chance to be competitive and win this thing. So I think they'll be all right. I think they're gonna be okay. I don't really see Atlas doing much here now. I don't know. Maybe Lizzie will disagree with me because she's definitely more of the Liga MX person here, and she thinks every team is gonna win, but except Cruz Azul. But
no, it's I mean, Atlas has been struggling recently, and I know Philly has struggled, but again, in their 1-0 loss to Cincinnati this past weekend, they did rest a bunch of players for this match. so that they can be ready for the Atlas match. So I would imagine Philly goes out and is, just fires on all cylinders in this match and honestly gets the win. I can't imagine. I know it's on the road. Atlas is not going to be an easy team to play against on the road tomorrow, but I would imagine Philly, they'll probably park it a little bit, but they're going to go out there and hopefully get in their case, they hope to get an early goal. And then from that point on, just kind of take care of things from there, because that away goal is going to be so important. So if they can get the one away goal and then kind of park the bus from there, that should get the job done. And I really can't foresee Philly, losing this one. But again, I don't underestimate Atlas either. This is going to Mexico is not an easy thing. And so it's going to be a test for sure for Philly. And this is another game where they could say, okay, we go in there and we perform well, we could start to figure things out and get back on track. But they do seem to be having a little bit of the CONCACAF Champions League struggle that Seattle was having last season, and trying to balance it and trying to figure out how to win it while also playing well in the MLS. So it'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. Then, of course, again, as we mentioned, LAFC lead Vancouver 3-0 already in their CONCACAF Champions League match. I mean, we've already talked about it. We probably expect LAFC to rest players. But is there any shot that Vancouver can pull this one out on the road?
Sorry to disappoint you and your Vancouver Whitecaps minute. No, it's over for Vancouver, unfortunately. They had a nice run. They had their good game in the previous round, so it's nice. Good showing. But actually, I do want to touch on the Philadelphia for a second. Historically, MLS teams going to Mexico have struggled, and it's always been a challenge for them. But I think the real challenge for Philly is not going to be tomorrow against Atlas. It's actually going to be Saturday on the road in Chicago against a team that we've talked about already. Chicago is, a team that's playing better than we expected, and are they going to be able to keep it up for 2 road games in a row? That's a lot of traveling for Philadelphia. So we'll see how the Union do. But
traveling down to Guadalajara and then traveling back to Philly to then travel to Chicago. That's not a fun. That's not a fun trip. I mean, it's going to be difficult. I don't think it's I think it's probably unrealistic for the Vancouver Whitecaps to beat LAFC this week. I don't think it's unrealistic for Atlas to pull out a shock victory against Philly this weekend.
Or this 100%. Yeah.
So that one is going to be a phenomenal one. That one takes place tomorrow.
There you go.
That one takes place tomorrow at 10 p.m. Tonight's game takes place tonight between LAFC and Vancouver. And then there is a Thursday match as well between Tigres. They're already up 1-0 on their opponent, which I think is CD Olympico.
No, Motagua.
Okay. Yeah. Motagua. And then Leon plays tomorrow night as well, but they're already up 5-0 and basically through to the next round on Violet. So I can't imagine they'll lose either. So, and they haven't lost in 13 matches now. So they've been on a bit of a tear. But I think that wraps up CONCACAF Champions League. We do need to touch on some Liga MX things, though. So the big news does involve Tigres as they go into this second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League. They're now with a new coach, again, for the second time this season. The Tigres coach, and I believe his name, let me just pull it up just so I make sure I have it.
Here we go.
It's Marco Ruiz. Yes, Marco Ruiz was the coach who took over for Diego Coca in the middle of the season when Coca went to the Mexican national team. And now he has been fired since, because Tigres has been awful for the better part of the last 6 games, I think. And now they bring in a coach by the name of Robert Dante Siboldi. That's their new Tigres coach, and he will take over his first match. He will take over his first match this week against in their CONCACAF Champions League match. My question to you, as we talk about Tigres, who has been struggling of late, I mean, how do they break out of this? Is this, they currently sit in 7th place when we were at the beginning of the season, we were talking about them as one of the best teams in the league, possibly could win the entire, all of Liga MX, the Clausura, and the playoffs. Now they sit in 7th place. They've fallen tremendously since that point. They do have a 1-0 lead in their CONCACAF Champions League match. Is this coaching change enough to right the ship now, or is this just going to cause more problems so late in the season and in such a pivotal time in the CONCACAF Champions League?
I'll answer your question with another question. Name me a time where something like this has happened and it's worked out for the team, where you've had double coaching changes in the middle of a cup run while you're trailing in the standings. Like, there's a reason you're doing a double coaching changes, because you're not playing well. You're not a well-run team, and the performance is not well. You don't change coaches when you're at top of the table. So, no, Tigres is in trouble. I think they better not sleep on my boys Motagua. All right. Shout out to all my Catracho friends, all my Honduran peeps out there rooting and watching tomorrow. Or when is it? They're playing tonight? No, Thursday. Thursday game. So they'll be I'll be cheering for Motagua. I got a lot of Honduran friends. So shout out to Catracho Nation. I think Tigres is in trouble. I think sometimes you get a little too full of your own, you start drinking your own juice too much and you realize, hey, wait a minute, man, we're having problems here. And eventually they're going to have to make a choice, because it's obvious with the coaching changes and it's obvious with their performance that they can't focus on two things right now. They can't focus on this Champions League Cup run, and they can't focus on, where they are in the table. Which one's going to take priority for them? If you're a Mexican fan, what takes priority for you, Yeah,
I mean, there's been a lot of turmoil in this Tigres team. Obviously, again, as Lizzie had mentioned when we talked about this, when Coca moved on, the Tigres fan base and the Mexican national team do not get along. So when Coca moved to the Mexican national team, there was, a lot of, discord between that. And then they moved on to Marco Ruiz, who got a win in his first match. But since then, they've just been awful. And they've only won, I think it's 2 games in their past. I just had it up here. Yeah, 2 games in their past, like 8, I think it is 8 or 9.
Ugh.
And
Ouch.
That's not a good sign. Obviously, that's why you move on from the current coach that you have now. They did just lose to Mazatlan, who has 2 wins all season, 1 against Cruz Azul and 1 against Tigres. So you can't be losing games to Mazatlan if you want to continue to climb up the standings and change things around. And that was clearly the last straw. I think, honestly, they have 4 games left in the season, or they have 3 games left in the Clausura season before the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They have Querétaro, they have Puebla, and they have León. The León game is thank you.
Your Spanish is outstanding, bro.
Phenomenal. Yes.
Very good. Very good job.
So the León game is going to be a difficult one. It's on the road. It's going to be hard for them to win that one. And Querétaro is on the road as well. And as Lizzie told us, they're just getting their fan base back. Their fan base is ready to get back into things. And so that's going to be a difficult one too. I mean, this is not an easy run-in for a Tigres team that desperately, desperately needs a win right now. And,
Would you be surprised to see a third coaching change before the season's over?
I would
this
be
guy's gonna
surprised
come
to
in
see
and be like,
coaching change.
He's like, you lost the Champions League game. You lost the first 2 of these last 3 that are gone. You're gone. Get out of here. Bring in the 4th.
I would be surprised, because if they don't, they're Querétaro and Puebla are both 9 and 10 in the playoffs right now. These are very important games for them and for Tigres, because if Tigres loses both those games, who they have up next, Querétaro and Puebla probably move above them in the standings, and Tigres kind of floating around that 10, 11, 12 position. That's a problem. Seems like an issue. Like, there's a realistic shot where they lose the last 3 games of the season.
I love how all the team names have fallen to you in this conversation, in this segment, and you've handled it like a total champ.
I know.
Bravo,
Listen,
dude. I'm here like I haven't had to say one of those teams.
I'm
been
practicing.
Nailing them, dude. Very good job.
But thank you. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting for Tigres. That's really the moral of this conversation is Tigres is going to have some trouble, and it doesn't look like it may not get any better. We'll find out Thursday to see what the differences are. But
yeah, maybe this new guy comes in and they pull off. They go 2-1 in the season and they win, on Thursday, and they continue to advance. They survive and advance in the cup. We'll see. Could be. But again, I've never seen a situation where, after a second coaching change in the season, you're going to have success. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. It's like oh, you know what? Tigres, Chelsea, huh? Same thing, right?
Tigres and Chelsea are like they've both
They're the
made
same thing,
two
right? They had Tuchel. They went from Tuchel to Potter to now Lampard as a fill-in. They're playing tomorrow against Real Madrid in the Champions League. They're out of the table. They're not going to make there's no playoffs in Premier League, but they're not going to make top 4. But are they going to make top 10? Maybe. Who knows? Find out. So look at that. Tigres and Chelsea are. Maybe I should be a Tigres fan. Maybe I should root for them.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's why I'm a Cruz Azul fan. There's disappointment forever, and that's why I'm a Cruz Azul fan, because Everton does the same thing to me. But so that's, Tigres it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then the final thing I want to talk about, another thing we need to note in Liga MX, Club America, they break Monterrey's streak. Monterrey had not lost since the first game of the season. Coming into this match with Club America, this was a match that I was really, really, really hoping that Monterrey was going to win, because it would have made me very happy, because then Monterrey would have then Club America would have been in striking distance for Cruz Azul in their matchup this coming weekend. That was not the case, because why would anything work out so that I can beat Liz? I just want to beat Lizzie.
You said you're an Everton fan. That's what were you expecting?
It's very true. This is very true. But it was a stunning win, I think, for Club America. Monterrey has been on a tear. They have, never mind the fact that they haven't lost since the first game of the season, they haven't even drawn. They've drawn once since the first game of the season up until this point. They lose 2-1. They get up early 1-0, and then Club America with Valdez and Vinas get 2 goals, one in the first half, one late in the second half. That leads to the 2-1 win. Hey, credit to Club America, because this was not an easy game for them to have to play, and you got a rivalry matchup, a derby that next coming weekend against Cruz Azul, against the team. This is against a team that was not easy to beat. So they controlled 62% of the possession, had 2.23 expected goals, 8 shots, 5 on target, compared to 9 shots and 4 on target for Monterrey. A lot of that coming in the second half for the most part. But Club America now in 3rd place, and we're sad.
Yeah. See, this is I envision Lizzie watching this episode, later.
Just laughing.
On her.
Just laughing.
This is the reason she's on vacation too. It's because, Club America pulled off the big win. She had to go celebrate. So she's out somewhere, probably in the streets of Mexico right now, celebrating.
So close. We were so close.
So close.
Because then I could have, it would have been it was all going too perfectly, because then it would have been the first game back for Lizzie after Club America lost to Cruz Azul. It would have been so good. But nonetheless, Club America, they win the match, and they have Cruz Azul, Pumas, and Juarez left on the schedule. So definitely a good schedule remaining for them. They will probably not catch Monterrey. They're 7 points back with 3 to play. That would be, Monterrey would have to have an all-time collapse for them to lose.
Exactly.
And Monterrey has Mazatlan left on their schedule, and a Pumas team who's been struggling left on their schedule. So can't imagine Monterrey is going to lose this one, but they're going to lose this lead. But
I think you're going to have to wait till next season to get that revenge, that satisfaction. Which
don't worry, the playoffs are there. The playoffs are there. Don't worry, playoffs are there. When Club America takes on Cruz Azul in the playoffs and Cruz Azul wins, it's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay.
Oh man, we'll do a whole show just on that. I want you to break down minute by minute everything that happened with that victory.
I will nix the MLS portion of the schedule if Cruz Azul beat Club America. That's my opinion.
150%. I'll be there watching. I did want to ask you one thing here before we wrap up. Now that you've encompassed a good amount of a season already for Mexican Liga MX, how do you feel? Are you like into it more than you thought you would? Kind of right where you thought you would be, or?
I think I'm right where I thought I would be. I'm still kind of figuring it out, trying to watch the games. It is hard to watch them in Spanish because I either watch it on mute or I don't
You
understand.
sound fluent, though. You sound
happening.
fluent, so
Thank you. I
Got me
appreciate
fooled.
it. Cabeza. That's the big word that I've learned over the course of me watching Spanish soccer. But yeah, I mean, it's been it's been hard to watch the games in Spanish, which has been the hardest part, I think, because it's like, it's harder to be engaged when you're not understanding a single thing of what the announcers are saying. But it's been good. I mean, there's been a lot of craziness all throughout, and now we're getting into the good portion of the season where, it's almost playoff time. We got the end of the season, end of the Clausura, then into the playoffs. We get a little bit of a break, and then we get Leagues Cup. So a lot of good stuff coming up that's going to, continue to help me move more into the Liga MX world. But we're in a good spot right now. We're in a good spot.
And is the Cruz Azul jersey already in your closet, or is it on the way?
I do not have a Cruz Azul jersey. I do not have one yet. They are my
Cruz Azul. You're missing out. You got a big fan right here. Hook him up. Hook this guy up. He's really devoted. Like, I gotta commend your commitment to finding your team, to sticking with the league. You're the kind of fan every team wants, man. Good job.
I'm fine. I try really, really hard. And I root for my teams very much.
Yeah.
But they made it hard for me at the beginning. I almost jumped ship. I almost had to jump ship. But then I realized I'm a loyal fan, so I would never do that.
Exactly. Hook this man up right there. Hook him up.
But yeah, so that is that. I think that about wraps up everything. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say thank you guys for letting me hop in and fill in for a couple of weeks here. Always fun. Always love to go back and forth on a good footy talk here. So anytime you guys need me, I'm always available. I'll still be behind the scenes for anybody who's watching. So be sure to follow us, 90min_US on Twitter, 90min_USA on IG. And sure, hit that like and subscribe button right now. If you're watching on YouTube, show some support, give us some love. We really appreciate it. Every little like goes a long way. And every little comment, everything that you do really means a lot to all of us that work really hard to make this thing happen to you. So for myself, thank you very much. Lizzie, have a safe, awesome vacation. She'll be back next week to enlighten us with her Club America takes and her disdain. She'll carry on my disdain for Inter Miami, though. So that part will be safe on the show. So
we'll see. We'll see what happens with Inter Miami. Maybe, well, they can't get a win this weekend. So it is a win.
Yeah, guaranteed they won't lose this weekend. There you go. So
they won't lose this weekend. There you go. Breaking news from the Real Futbol Show. Inter Miami will not lose this weekend.
Guaranteed.
That about wraps it up. That about wraps it up. We're getting silly out here. So let's break here, and we appreciate all you guys' support, and we appreciate the love you guys give us. And again, just like Edwin said, go follow the social channels, check out all of our content, and we will talk to you guys next week. Peace.
Have a great weekend.